Okay, so I've got my E-stitching, my basting. Now I'm going to put it on the garment. So here is my shirt, and as you can see, I've got the right side up. Here's the pocket, here's my edge stitching on my yoke, so I've got everything facing up, the right side facing up. So now what I'm going to do is take my sleeve and I'm going to put the right side facing down. Notice this has got the placket in it, so I've got the placket all finished, and this is the right side. So I'm going to start pinning it together, right sides together. Okay, all right, so I'll start down here in this corner, and I'll get that corner all together, and I want to pin it right about where I sew it. And then I've got my notches here. Make sure you've got your single notch to single notch. That means you're putting the front part of the sleeve to the front part of the garment. Okay, and then I've also got some other marks here I want to use. I've got the very top of my sleeve, which is the shoulder dot, and I'm going to put that, match that up with the very, where the shoulder seam is on the yoke. Now this yoke actually goes onto the front a little bit and then down the back. So that means the little notch that I did on the yoke to show where the shoulder seam goes is right here, and I'm going to match that up with the shoulder seam of the sleeve. That's a very important dot right there at the top of your shoulder, so you want to match that up. I also have another dot that I did a little snip on the front of the shirt, and I did a little snip here on the sleeve, and those match up. Okay, because remember, we're putting an outward curve to an inward curve, so it's kind of tricky. Now this edge matches up just fine, so I don't need to pull up any easing there. It seems to be working good there. But from here to here, can you see how the sleeve is bigger than the garment? So that's where I've got to take my ease, and I've got to kind of pull it to try to condense the yarns right there. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull a little bit of that, use the thread to kind of pull that fabric in, and see how I've condensed the yarns here. I'm gonna sew so it'll be smooth. Then it does cause it to ripple a little bit on the outside edge. So I've got to pull it a little bit more up. So I grab that ease stitching thread, and I come in here and I just pull this along until I can ease that up. Okay, all right, I think I've got it. Okay, see how that was able to condense those yarns right where I stitch, so that now the little bigger edge fits the smaller edge. See, now this has to come up over the shoulder, which is why it needs to be a little bit bigger. And again, it's the outward curve on the sleeve. See the outward curve on the sleeve to the inward curve of the garment. So that's a little tricky. Now I've pulled it up. I don't need to pull it up so much on this side. So now I kind of smooth it out again, so I don't need all that extra. Okay, so I've got that going. Now let's go ahead and stitch the other half of this sleeve. And so I've got the mark here with this mark, and that's called the balancing dot, and that just helps you to put the right amount of ease into the sleeve where it needs to go, so that it's balanced on your shoulder, on your arm. Okay, and then I'm going to match up the double notch here. That means the back. I'm pinning the back of the sleeve to the back of the garment. Double notches are always the back. And then I'm going to come over here. Now, because it's an inward curve and an outward curve, sometimes those edges don't match perfectly on your seam allowance. We don't care about that. What we care is that it matches up at the 5/8, at the seam line. So I match that up good. And now I'm going to keep your raw edges together, and I've got it matched up here good as well. Okay, now let's see, I want to make sure that I pulled some ease on the other side. Let's see how we're doing here. Okay, see, this is a little bit bigger here, so I've got to pull a little bit of ease up on this side. So I'm going to come over here and just slide that ease along here a little bit, so that it can help to again kind of condense those yarns, so that it will, a little smaller size will fit a little bit bigger. Okay, all right, so I think I've got that. Okay, now if I have any extra ease, I try to pull it out, because I don't want any gathers or any pulling right there. Okay, that's good. So that just pulled that ease up just enough to get this nice and smooth right here. Okay. Okay, again, you got to keep your raw edges together. They have a tendency on that sleeve to want to slip up and be higher. We don't want that. Okay. And we want to also smooth this out good, so that we don't get bunching or little folds or little gathers. Want it nice and smooth. Okay, I think we are ready to go ahead. I've got this all pinned, the Armscye, and see how nice that looks, and it's not bunching, it's just fitting in nice and smooth. Okay, so I'm going to go and stitch that at 5/8.